What if two simple words could actually save your life? I know, it sounds crazy, but in one town in India, that's exactly what people believed. The phrase, Nale ba, and it basically means, come tomorrow. The story behind why they wrote this everywhere is seriously chilling.
But why? Why would an entire town start writing those two specific words on their doors? What on earth were they so afraid of? Well, that's the mystery we are going to dive into right now.
See, this wasn't just some random graffiti. For the people living there, it was like a lock, a shield, and a pretty ingenious solution to a truly terrifying problem.
All right, so let's set this scene. We're going back to 1984, to a small town in the Indian state of Karnataka. Something strange was in the air. A really unsettling fear started to creep through the streets, and nobody, and I mean nobody, could explain what was going on. And look, this wasn't just some vague feeling of dread. No, the town was facing something very specific, something horrifying that seemed to arrive only after the sun went down.
So here's the deal. Men were just disappearing. Night after night, another man would vanish right out of his own home. The whole town was paralyzed with fear. By 6 p.m., the streets were completely empty. And right into this atmosphere of pure panic, a reporter named Venkat shows up looking for a story.
So Venkat gets there, and he pretty quickly discovers that the townspeople weren't really looking for a logical explanation. They were convinced this was the work of something otherworldly. And their solution? It was just as supernatural.
A local priest is the one who finally laid it all out for him. The town believed the culprit was a witch, a spirit, they said, dressed in a red sari, who roamed the streets after dark, hunting for men. And the way she operated was just deeply unsettling. She wouldn't just break in. No, she would knock on the door and call out the man's name. And once he opened that door, she'd put him under a spell, lead him away, and he would never be seen alive again.
So, what do you even do when you're up against something like that? The townspeople came up with a defense that was as clever as it was desperate. They figured they had to use the witch's own rules against her. And their solution was, honestly, kind of brilliant in its simplicity. They wrote, Naresi Bale, on their doors, come tomorrow. The idea was that the spirit had to obey what was written. It would read the message, leave, and come back the next night, only to find the same message, trapping it in this never-ending loop.
Okay, so Venkat has this incredible, spooky story for the paper, right? But this whole thing was about to get a lot more personal for him. The legend was about to become terrifyingly real.
Picture this. He's leaving town, it's late, and of course, his scooter breaks down. It's pitch black, the streets are dead silent, and he is completely, utterly alone. And that's when he gets that feeling that he's being watched.
He starts walking, pushing his scooter through the dark, when he hears it. A sweet, almost musical voice, just cutting through the silence of the night.
It was calling his name, Venkat, just like the priest had described. And it was a voice he felt this strange compulsion to answer. In a moment of just pure terror, he doesn't even think. He abandons the scooter and just runs for his life. He spots a small, empty-looking house and manages to get inside, barricading the door behind him.
And then the knocking started. Loud, insistent knocks on the very door he was hiding behind, followed by these strange, unsettling noises right outside. He was trapped. After what felt like forever, the noises just stop. Everything goes silent. He musters up every bit of courage he has, slowly opens the door, fully expecting to see that witch in the red sari. But there was nothing, no one, just an empty street. But what happened after that? Well, that's where the story gets even weirder. The whole terrifying encounter leaves behind way more questions and answers, and it's what really cemented the legend of Nale for decades. So they find Venkat the next morning, passed out inside that house. He never had a clear memory of what really happened to him that night. The townspeople, they had a theory. He only survived because he wasn't a local. And maybe the weirdest part? Just a few months later, the sightings of the witch stopped. Completely. So where does that leave the legend of Nale today? Well, what started as this act of pure fear has totally transformed. People in that region still write Nale on their doors, but it's not really out of fear anymore. Now it's a tradition, a fascinating piece of local folklore passed down through generations.
And you know a story has real staying power when it hits the big screen. This tiny local legend actually became the inspiration for a huge blockbuster Bollywood film called Stree, which introduced the tale of Naliba to a whole new generation all across India.
Which brings us all the way back to that one big unanswered question. Was Venkat's encounter real? Was the whole thing just mass hysteria in a town gripped by fear? Or was there something else entirely stalking those streets? What do you think really happened to him on that deserted road all those years ago?